I met Cesar Chavez in 1984. He was coming from a march in Watsonville, and he was coming to Stockton to form a rally at Miranchito restaurant. It was to be 7 o'clock in the morning, so he could rally forces and support for salaries, to improve salaries in the tomato strikes for the farm workers. I offer my help. I says, how can I help? I says, I'm a teacher. I do not have too much time to spend going to marches, but if there is anything I can do, I will be happy. So he says, well, you could come tomorrow to a rally. The following morning, I came to the rally at 7 o'clock, and he was very pleased. Immediately, we exchanged phone numbers for his office to call me in Tracy, since I was teaching in Tracy. And since then, I said, if you happen to be traveling to San Francisco or Sacramento and you're in the area, I will be happy to open my home to you, your family, and all the farm workers executive board of the union to stay at my home. So he says, that will be great, because that's sometimes what we need. So since then, I was always opening my home for them as they travel. That saved them perhaps financially to pay for hotel accommodations and restaurants. I prepare meals for them for the evening. They usually stay overnight, and they continue the following morning.
We provided food, and we brought water, and if there was a march that was going to be taking place to any particular march to Sacramento, most of them were headed towards Sacramento. You know, we marched along with the rest of the people. We would help with bringing water to the marchers, or, you know, I would make food at home and would have them come over if, you know, like after their march had ended, they would come to my home and they eat and they would sleep. Sometimes we had 20, 30 people in my house at one time, you know, sleeping on the floor, sleeping under the table in my kitchen, and just everywhere. So just to give them at least a place to rest and shower and have breakfast and continue on the journey the following day. It was something that we had lived, you know, as being farm workers, and we understood the need to raise awareness to people so that they knew that farm workers are human beings just like anybody else, and the suffering and the struggle out there in the fields, laboring and toiling the soil, you know, to make a living, was such an important movement. And Cesar Chavez took on the strong lead to bring this awareness forth. I keep it in my home. I keep it at home, and it's very valuable to me. First of all, because my mother's already gone, my godmother's already gone, and because Cesar Chavez is here in this picture, and to me, their spirit is still alive. And I value Cesar Chavez's life because he made such difference to humanity.
He had this gift, and he understood people very well, and he could always, whatever argument you had against something, he would talk with you, and he had a manner that could really offset whatever anger or objection that you had, especially when he's talking with people who were trying to go against what he was trying to accomplish, and that is in the labor movement. But he also utilized his intellect, because I would pick him up in Tracy, and all the way from Tracy, the first thing he would ask me, do you have a light back here? And I'd say, yeah. So what he would do is he would read, and he would read all the way to where we got, and then if he got on the bus, if I would take him there to Modesto, and he got a bus in Modesto, he got on there and he'd start reading.
It reminds me Gandhi, you know, real quiet, real, they give me business, you know, but non-violent, and he had a spirit that connects you, you know, used to fight for the cause, you know, without violence.
Cesar was, you know, always wanting to do something. He was always ahead whatever people thought, he was ahead 3 steps, just like a good chess player. He was always 3 or 4 moves ahead of you.
My father was killed in 1947. I was 3 years old, and we went from quasi-middle class, a lower middle class, to extreme poverty. My mother, the survivor, and I had 2 sisters and a brother, and my mother was about 5 months pregnant. And so we all moved into a 1-bedroom house. And then a few years later, we moved into the housing project that they built on the south side of Tracy. And that was like backbreaking, and it was all day, and you started early in the morning, but you worked until the peak time of the day when the sun was just bearing down on you. And what they say is true. The growers did not provide restrooms. They really didn't provide water, and if they did, they had one metal cup tied to with a wire to the handle, so that everybody dipped into the same water, drank out of the same cup. And if you brought, which we tended to do, if you brought your own beverages, by midday they were hot, so you were drinking hot liquids.
With the heat and the chemicals in the trees and the fuzz of the peach, and even though we covered ourselves to protect us from the perspiration and all that, how that fuzz of the peach and the dust and all that would burn my skin so bad. It was like if I were burnt by fire, and my skin would just peel.
We had a caravan from Sacramento to 40 Acres in Delano, and then in the morning we got up like around 4 o'clock, and it was hella cold, and we went over to it was like Gilroy, I think it was, in the Monterey Gilroy area, and we were out there before the sun was up, and so it was cold, but we had to get there as the farm workers were beginning to arrive, and then just trying to talk with them, and the police telling you can't be here, and we're saying like, well, we're not like on anybody's property. And I think this is where Cesar Chavez's philosophy of nonviolence worked. When they see people speaking to them in their language about benefits, and then they see someone else coming and trying to beat you up or mistreat you, when all you're trying to do is advocate for them, it worked against them, because they were saying, wow, man, why are they doing that to those people? They're just trying to help us.
Where Latinos are today, to me, is like some of us Latinos. I call them, they graduate, they went to college, they have big jobs right now, and the parents work in the fields, but the sons, they forgot already that the parents work in the fields, and they try to be of the different society. They try to be and it's all right, but you never forget where you came from, because you don't know where you're going, and it's really sad, because there's still a lot of parents working on the fields, and kids are going, their sons are going to college, to school, trying to be educated. But I hope some of those, they come back and they, be part of the struggle. Yeah, the struggle still exists. It's if you go to the fields right now, the toilet, it's about maybe a quarter of a mile away. The shades, now with what happened to Maria, it's just fun, because they just put a tarp, 10 by 10, but it's at the end of the field, just a blue tarp. Those blue tarps they sell in Home Depot, or they just put one of them. And I said, well, we got shade. Yeah, they got shade. That's what the law needs, a shade, and they comply with the law. But it's sort of like making fun of the farm worker. Okay, you got your shade, now what do you want?
I think we need to accept the fact that this is a man that gave his life for social justice, just like Martin Luther King gave his life for just social justice as well. And I believe that making this a national holiday is not necessarily only to get a day off work, but I think it's a day of national pride. It's a day of pride for us Latinos to recognize and know that our children deserve to be recognized as having somebody to look up to, having someone that has struggled to make lives of people better.